All right, welcome. If you've got your eye on the housing market in Springfield, Massachusetts, then you're in the right place. Today, we are tackling a really important question for you. What's the real cost of a home appraisal going to be in 2026?
When you're buying a home, there are just so many costs to think about, right? But one of the most important, and one you absolutely can't skip, is the appraisal. So, what's the actual number you need to have ready in your budget for Springfield? Let's find out.
But hang on, before we start throwing numbers at you, let's just make sure we're all on the same page about what an appraisal actually is. It's a foundational step, and really understanding its purpose is key to making this whole home buying thing go smoothly.
So think of an appraisal like this. It's an expert's, unbiased, professional opinion on what a property is actually worth. A licensed appraiser looks at the home's condition, its size, where it's located, and, this is critical, what similar houses right there in the same neighborhood have sold for recently. All that gets crunched to determine its fair market value.
And this isn't just a friendly suggestion. For pretty much every mortgage out there, whether you're buying a new place or just refinancing, the lender is going to require one. It's how they protect their investment. And that means you're the one who has to pay for it. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the costs for Springfield.
First up, let's break down the most common situation, a standard appraisal for a conventional loan or a refinance. This is the figure that's going to apply to most of you, so you'll want to pay close attention here.
All right, here's the number you've been waiting for. The typical fee for a standard single-family home appraisal in Springfield is right around $377. This is the baseline number you should probably plug into your budget as you're planning everything out.
Now, let's add a little context to that number. While $377 is the typical fee, the full range usually falls somewhere between $350 and $500. The whole process takes about a week to 10 days, and its main job, its only job really, is to determine that fair market value. And just a little heads up, if you're looking at a bigger house, say over 2,500 square feet, you can definitely expect that cost to go up.
Okay, now let's switch gears and talk to a different group of homebuyers. If you're a veteran or an active service member using a VA home loan, the process and, the price tag are going to look a little different. This is really critical info if you qualify for this amazing benefit.
For a VA loan in Springfield, the number you need to remember is $625. Now, it's super important to note this is not an average. This is the maximum allowable fee that the Department of Veterans Affairs sets for this area. You will not pay more than this.
This chart really lays out the differences perfectly, side by side. First, just look at the cost. You see that jump from around $377 all the way up to that $625 max fee? The timeline is also a bit more specific for the VA, 10 business days. But the real story, the reason for that price difference, is right there in the last row. Scope. Let's unpack what that means.
So, you're probably asking, why the big price jump for a VA appraisal? Well, it all comes down to that added scope, which is really an extra layer of protection that's built right into the VA loan to protect the service member.
The reason is something called minimum property requirements, or MPRs. A VA appraiser isn't just asking, what's this house worth? They're also required to make sure the home is safe, sanitary, and structurally sound. They're looking for things like a good roof, a working furnace, and no safety hazards like exposed wiring. It's a much more detailed inspection, and that's why it costs more. And hey, beyond just the type of loan, other things can absolutely change your final cost. Appraising a duplex is obviously more complex and more expensive than a single-family home. A really unique, huge historic property, that's going to take more work. And other things like needing a rush job for a quick turnaround, or even if the appraiser has to travel a long way. All that can add to the final bill.
So, knowing all this, how can you prepare for your appraisal and make sure the whole thing goes as smoothly as possible? Let's get into some real, actionable advice to help you avoid any of those last-minute financial surprises.
Here's a simple checklist to get you ready. First, always get a written cost estimate from your lender right from the start. Second, get the house ready. A clean, tidy home with minor issues fixed and every room accessible just makes the appraiser's job easier. Third, if you're selling in a hot market, offering to pay this fee can be a really smart move. And last, don't forget, if you have a conventional loan, you actually have the option to shop around for an appraiser.
At the end of the day, this is why it all matters so much. When you walk into this process with a crystal clear understanding of these costs, you can set your budget with real confidence. It just eliminates one of the biggest potential headaches when you finally get to that closing table.
Being informed really does put you in the driver's seat. You've now got the appraisal cost for Springfield in 2026 totally figured out. So the real question is, what's the next potential surprise you need to be ready for in your home buying budget?